PGL Astana starts in just a couple of hours, and I wanted to go over my picks and predictions for the event and just give my insights and such on what's about to happen. First, I wanted to start off with probably the easiest pick of anything in this event, and that is going to be Spirit to go 3-0 in the event. I think that this is a clear lock. I think Spirit is very dominant. Spirit doesn't have to worry about the Vitalities or the Falcons of the world in this event, and especially with this group stage, they should just be able to farm. I think Donk especially and Shiro will both have very, very good events. My next 3-0 pick, we have the Mongols, who I think bounce back after they've had a bit of a rough patch here in the past month or so. I think that they will come out swinging. They will come out and show why they are a top 5 to top 7 team in the world at the moment. And I think that they have a pretty easy path to a 3-0. Starting with my 0-3s now, I'm going to take Ho2. Closest thing to a hometown team we have in this event, and I'm having them go 0-3. Ho2 just doesn't have really anything that impresses me at all about them. They could have a surprising upset, but I think that's unlikely. Next is a team that I am actively hate watching, and it's going to be Audic. Audic does not look good, and they are a bunch of nobodies. They are a bunch of frauds. Audic qualified to this event, beating Imperial, Fluxo, and Bestia. Then, weeks later, they do not make the Austin Major. They bomb out in the MRQ, and the 3 teams that went through the MRQ, what do you know? Imperial, Fluxo, Bestia. So yeah, I find that incredibly laughable. My next pick is, along with Spirit, one of the easier picks here. Aurora to make it through 3-1. As we have seen throughout 2025, they are a very, very, very good team up until they make playoffs of an event. If I have it correctly, they have not won a playoff game in 2025 at a LAN event. So these guys will be good to make it through, but once they get to the quarterfinals, I doubt they win whoever they play against. Next, pretty hot take, I have G2 going through 3-1. G2, I think, is going to have a chip on their shoulder and will somehow, some way have a fluky run to the playoffs of Astana. They have their opening match against MIBR, who I'm not very high on. I think that they can easily win that game. And then the likes of Hunter, who's been playing pretty decent as of late. And then Malbs and Heavy God. I think along with Hades, who will probably just be fine, they find a way to make playoffs, even with the atrocious calling that Snacks has. Next up, another team with a chip on their shoulder is going to be Gamer Legion. After missing the major, they have a bit of fire in them, I believe, and they will be able to do enough to get a 3-1, especially with a somewhat lackluster field of opponents around them. Going next to my 1 and 3 teams, we are going to start with MIBR. I think that MIBR is not really that good outside of Insani. Insani is in jail with this whole soccer-esque buyout that South America does for Counter-Strike players. So sadly, we're not going to see Insani on a good team for a while, I don't think, still, unless he finds a way to get out of his contract. Next up is going to be Big Clan going in the 1-3. My problem with Big Clan is that I like Tabson as a fragging IGL, but not really as a calling IGL. I think people are way too high on Tabson as a caller at this moment in time. I just have a question to ask all those Tabson believers. Why, with a supposed very good caller, why are they bombing out of so many events? time and time and time again this year. A follow-up question to that is, how many more bad results do you have to see to finally believe and finally start to question the calling of Tabson? I feel like this supporting cast around him has always been into question before he gets called into question. I'm not saying that he's a complete fraud. I'm saying that I need to see some results here. Next up is going to be NIP. NIP, I don't know what to say about. I mean, I'm going to put it on the screen. They're losing to fucking tier 8 fucks. Like, what are we doing? I don't even know what to say. I was tempted to put them 0-3, but I think I like U-Jerks and Wrinkle and Shush enough so that they see one win here. Going on to the 3-2 teams, the first 3-2 team here is going to be another hot take. It's going to be Furia. As we have seen a couple years ago, they tried to call in English when they had Junior, and that did not work out at all. However, they bring in multiple pieces, including an absolutely cracked Opper in Moladoy. And although he hasn't been playing well, they bring in a very aggressive rifler in Yakindar. That core that they had of Yuri, Quesarado, and Skulls, it's way too passive of a rifling core in my opinion. They need some form of aggressiveness, someone who likes to take risks, and I think that Yakindar can do that, and he can do that at least well enough to be able to get them into the playoffs of this event. My next 3-2 team, someone who many people probably thought I would have talked about by now, but haven't, is going to be Na'Vi, and that is because Na'Vi has just looked completely lost in their past couple of events. I think that they have a lot of pressure on them now, and they could easily fall under this pressure and not make playoffs of this event. But with the amount of firepower that the team has, it is inexcusable for them to not make playoffs of this event. I think that Alexi B's calling, as well as Bit and JL, will be enough to make them through this Swiss stage. This might have to be another video, but Na'Vi has a problem that needs to be fixed, and it likely lays with Wonderful. I'm going to take a bit of a break from the 3-2 and go on to some of the 2-3 teams, and I'm going to start with Pain. And my issue with Pain is what happened just 1 week ago at Blast Rivals, where they lose to Wild Card and get bumped out in last place of the group. Why are we out here losing a Wild Card? I love North American CS. I love that Wild Card won that game, but I would say probably 90 times out of 100, Pain should win that game, even with having a new addition in DGT, who I'm a fan of, by the way. I'm really a fan of this whole team, and I want them to succeed. But especially after Bigger Zero's tweet where he was basically complaining about, oh, it's a new addition, we need time, blah, blah, blah. I understand that, and to be fair, it could just be the translation of it being misinterpreted, but with how it was worded, just left a bad taste in my mouth. And I think that they're going to play well at the major in just under a month from now, but at the moment, they need a little bit more time to cook. My second 2-3 team is going to be Astralis. I think that Cadian calling wasn't the problem. I think the problem with this team at the moment is Stown and Yabi, but the organization doesn't think so. From what it sounded like, they wanted to get Hooksy a couple months ago instead of Cadian, but for one reason or another, it just didn't work out at the time. So maybe there's a bit more faith in this Astralis team. I almost want to say I feel bad for Device, especially with how they didn't qualify for the major, where on that last map against Bait, he was carrying the hell out of everyone on that team. But I don't know, Stal and Yabi are big question marks at the moment. They have not looked good. Stairs looked good. Devices looked excellent. But if you want to win matches with Hooksy calling, you need, like on G2, you need your Nikos and your Monacies. And Astralis doesn't have a player of that caliber. Definitely not two. The hardest part of these predictions was choosing my last 3-2 and 2-3 team. I was juggling around all of them, and I think that my North American bias is going to come through and pick M80 to make it through to the playoffs of PGL Astana. I think that the recent news of the first American Pope is going to be enough to, they're going to have the power of God somehow, and they will have a complete tear through a couple of these games, and they're going to go through to the playoffs. And this leaves Virtus Pro 2-3 not making playoffs of this event, and it is just solely because of Electronic, really. That clip that came out a couple of weeks ago, I think, where Electronic was screaming at, I believe, Icy. I don't like that at all. I understand that it's like tough love or whatever, but it really, really rubs me the wrong way. People have been high on this Virtus Pro team. I've never really been high on them, and I think people are finally seeing the true colors of this team, where Electronic's calling isn't that good, and he also gets mad at his teammates all the time. Playoff prediction's pretty easy. I think it's likely going to be Spirit winning the grand final over Mongols. Maybe Na'Vi get to the finals, depending on how the bracket is laid out, just because I feel like if Na'Vi gets into the playoffs, I think that there's not enough good teams around them to be able to really threaten them at all. So yeah, Spirit wins. I will make a video after Astana, most likely, going through what did I get right, what did I get wrong. But as the title of this video reads, I am a Faceit level 3 in North America, so I am always right.